We're back now to give you the legal edge, and joining us as always is Bryan Waldman from the Sinas Dramis Law Firm. Good evening, Bryan.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. So we've recently covered quite a few stories involving landlord and tenant disputes, and so that's the topic for tonight. So Bryan, what are the laws that define the obligations of landlords and the rights of tenants in these situations?
There's got to be laws on evictions, security deposits, maintenance, and those laws can be defined by state law, local ordinance or codes, or even the lease or contract between the landlord and the tenant.
So it's complicated,
Absolutely.
which is why we see probably so many issues, I would assume. Okay,
Absolutely.
so are there general rules that apply regarding maintenance of rented property?
Sure. When it comes to maintenance, one of the important things to remember is that both the landlord and the tenant have obligations with regard to maintenance.
Okay.
The landlord's got an obligation to ensure that the property is fit for human habitation and that the property is in reasonable repair. The tenant's got an obligation to keep the property in a safe and sanitary condition, to promptly notify the landlord when there is a maintenance problem, and to exterminate any insects that come onto the property once the tenant takes possession.
Okay, so when is it the landlord's obligation to make a repair, and how quickly does that need to be done?
That may be defined by a lease on an individual basis. And in the time period that's required is a bit flexible because it's going to depend on how serious the problem is. If it's an emergency like a flood, obviously the repairs need to be made right away.
Right.
If it's something that's serious like a broken water heater, that requires something to be done relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And then minor repairs like maybe peeling paint, you know, the landlord can certainly take more time to do something like that.
So what can a tenant do if the landlord doesn't make the repairs when the tenant can show that those repairs are needed to actually live there? It's a serious issue.
Well, first of all, the tenant ought to try and really encourage the landlord to make the repairs, and it's best to put it in writing, and that really puts the pressure on the landlord to make the repairs. But if the landlord won't do that, there's a couple things that can be done. They're a little risky, so it's good to get legal advice or consult with someone first. Okay. But one thing that the tenant can do is actually make the repairs and then deduct the cost of the repairs from the rent that's paid. The other thing a tenant can do is pay the rent, but put it in an escrow account, a neutral party, with the condition that that money not be released until the repairs are made.
So I'm thinking, do your research and ask around before you sign anything, is what I'm getting from this
Absolutely,
conversation.
and obviously always best if you can work things out and get along with the landlord.
Absolutely. Bryan Waldman giving us the legal edge. Thank you, Bryan. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Siobhan.